Hello everyone, today we're going to replace this broken turquoise. I got this ring pretty cheap because of the broken turquoise. Once I've replaced it, I can either keep it or sell it. Uh, Also, I like to try tools that have more than one purpose. This is a pusher for watches, but I found that this tip works really well for prying open without ruining the metal, without ruining the silver. Look and see how I use this tool, and I found out that it works really well. If you use wider, thicker tools, sometimes you can break and ruin the piece. So this is super thin and it's strong enough to pry open the little tabs, the little bezel that holds down the stone. So I'm going to take my time, I'm going to take it really slow and try to go one by one individually so that we don't ruin the silver, the sterling. So one by one, just taking my time, no rush, no hurry. Got one side done already. I'm starting on the side and just taking it really slow, making sure that I don't break it, I don't apply too much pressure. And I like to go all the way around when I'm taking broken stones off. I like to go all the way around. I don't just like loosen one side and then try to, bring the stone up, because you can ruin the other side, or you can bend the bezel too much, and then when you try to when you try to put the new stone back in, you try to close the bezel, sometimes the little triangles, the little bezel triangles will break. So here I'm trying to open it, but I'm trying to pry it, but I don't want to apply too much pressure. So I'm going to try to use something that's a little more sturdier and won't over stress the part. It's really on there. So just take your time. So all this material coming out of the ring, coming from inside underneath the stone, was to raise the stone. So I'm going to save all that stuff. I'm going to save the material that was inside and use it to put that back again, to put the stone and raise the stone. So I'm just taking my time, and so there it is. Now I'm gonna have to choose what stone I want to use to replace. I already have an idea of which stone I want to use. I have a watch that has a really pretty green uh, accent stones, and I want to try to use something close to the color of the tips on my watch, kind of match it a little bit. Now I do have a stone that I could replace that matches identically the stone that came off of it, but like I said, I want to put a stone in that's going to match the watch tips of the watch that I have. And I mean, I can always, change it again. I'm going to keep this broken stone. I might have to cut it down once I've replaced the stone. This one I may cut it and make a new stone out of it, and just cut the broken part off. So right now I'm going to save this material that was inside. It looks like it's just sawdust. So I'm going to keep this and reuse it again for the same ring here. I'm going to take all this material that's stuck on here. It's interesting they did not use any sort of jeweler's glue or epoxy uh, for the stone because the bezel's pretty strong. It was really on there. So I'm gonna do the same thing because in the future I may want to change out the stone again, like I said. But for right now, I'm gonna try to match the tips, the color of the stones that are on my tips. This is gorgeous work, really beautiful work. I've seen rings like this go for over $300. It is a signed piece. I can see the hallmark inside. See, I can get another stone out of here. I just got to cut that broken part and redo a smaller stone. You know, I don't throw any of my stones away, like especially old pieces like this. I just keep them and repurpose most of the stones that I take off of the jewelry. So this is something that you might want to try if you ever come across native jewelry that has, or any type of jewelry that has a broken stone. Always keep in mind that you can replace these stones, you know. So what I like to do, because one day I may cut this stone, I like to trace it and put a little ID. I write a little ID of what ring this stone came out of. So in case I do cut this stone, I still have a way of, you know, cutting another stone. I mean, I could use technically the stone that I'm going to replace, but for some reason I like to keep record of the stone that I took out, and I like to trace the stone. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to go ahead and trace the stone that came off of the ring. So this is just something that I do. Also, I want to talk about machines, lapidary machines. Now, I haven't finished setting up my lapidary shop yet because, like right now, we have about 4 feet of snow on the ground. So I haven't even been able to get back into my shop. So it'll probably be closer to the spring. This is why I haven't completed setting up my shop. For the meantime, I do have my little lap, my little inland lap. But today, I'm going to show you how to do this without necessarily having to use a lapidary machine. Because before I bought my first lapidary machine, I used to do everything with a dremel. I could still do it, and that's what I'm going to do today. So I have this stone that I've picked out. This was just a pre-cut stone that I had, and so it's the closest color and shape to the stone that came off the ring, and the closest color that I have that I want to match my watch tips to. So I'm going to be using this stone that I'm tracing right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shave it down. And this is just a free-form rough polish. It's not the stone that I'm going to replace the old stone with is not 100% completed yet. It still needs to be refinished. Like the top part still needs to be polished and get a final finish. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grind down to the same shape as the original stone, and I'll go ahead and finish the polishing process. It's not hard to do. If you have a Dremel, you can do a lot. You can't do everything, but you can do a lot. You know, if you like I said, if you come across pieces of jewelry that need to be or need to have the stone replaced, it can be done. with just a dremel, and I'll show you in a bit what I mean. I'm just gonna finish tracing this stone, and whatever that blue, um, I'm gonna go ahead and grind all the I'm gonna grind the uh, area that has the blue until there's no blue left, and the stone should fit perfectly after that. So right now I'm just taking my Dremel, and I'll start the process now. Just taking it slow, grinding a little bit down at a time. Now I could use water, and I have done so in other videos, but this is not going to be very much, and I have some good ventilation. I'm wearing a mask, so like I said, this is very little that I'm going to grind off, so I don't really need water. I mean, I could use water, but I chose not to. I'm going to get a little dust everywhere, but that's okay. I don't mind. But do protect yourself, and if you're going to have a bigger job, I recommend using water. If you watch some of my other videos, you will see on the other video, I think it's the first or second video, that I do use water. I believe it's the second video that I do use water, and I use the Dremel. A lot of you might ask why I don't use my flat lap. Well, because like again, this is such a small job. It's going to take longer to set up the lap, and it's really super noisy. And this is just a quick, you know, this is just a quick way of doing it. And for those of you who don't have a flat lap, at least you can see how this is easily done with just a Dremel, just a handheld Dremel. Just gonna finish taking off little edges that are still sticking out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the thickness of the stone, because it is a little irregular. It's wider at one end, so I'm going to grind down from the back part. The face is going to stay the same, but I'm going to grind down from the back so that it's even on both ends. And you'll see how it's thicker on one side. I'm just going to take the Dremel and just grind down, make it even. And then after that, I'll go ahead and finish the polishing process. This stone isn't complete yet. It's about 60%. Um, like I said, I didn't finish polishing it completely. I think I only went to like 120 or 220, something like that. It was just a free form, and sometimes I'll leave stones like that because sometimes I'll repurpose stones, and sometimes stones I don't like to finish them, because if I get a piece of jewelry and I have to use a stone, I'm gonna have to basically redo the stone all over again when I use it for a new piece of jewelry. So this is why sometimes I keep stones unfinished, and this is a good example here. Almost ready. I'll do a little bit more. Pretty nice green, and it's almost identical to the color on the stones for my watch tip, for my watch band. So now I'm going to switch the Dremel head and try to get the stone to fit closer. See, here you can really notice how thick it is from on one side. So we're going to take that down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and make it the same size on both ends. It's just a simple process. If you use a smaller stone, you might have to put the stone on a dopping stick. But here the stone was just big enough to where I could do it just holding it with one hand. And this is also going to be a pretty quick process. Here, as you can see, it's getting there. Just a little bit more. Gotta make sure I don't overdo it. Yeah. Then it's going to be kind of, uneven. And there's also a little trick that I like to do. And it's kind of like the same. It's actually not anything new. This has been done since the beginning of jewelry, of native jewelry. I like to put something underneath the stone. If you have enough like sawdust, like what was originally in it, if you have enough of it, you can use it. But if you don't have sawdust, like if you don't have more of the original material that was inside, you can use other things. I've seen everything used in the jewelry. When I pop out old, broken stones from really old pieces of jewelry, I have found everything from cigarette butts to sand to sawdust, and as you can see, the stone fits perfectly, but it does sink in quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the original material back in, and I might add a little something more just to raise it to where I want it, how I want it to look. So I'll go ahead and do that. See, got a really good fit. It's got a little polish to it, but it's not complete. If you look at it up close, you can see that it still has saw marks on it. So I'm gonna have to redo and repolish the stone. And here's the little trick. If you have a tall bezel like this, really all you have to do is polish it from above. You don't have to do the whole back and the sides because it's covered by the bezel. I'll show you in a little bit how I do it. So I'm just putting the original material back in. Try to keep it as original OG as possible. And so now what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and set up the Dremel so that I can finish polishing. I'm going to use a little bit of paper napkin to put on top of the sawdust, so that gives the stone just a little raise. And like I said, I've seen this done before. I've seen cardboard, you name it. I've done so many old pawn pieces that this is something that I know for a fact was done even way back when. So there you go. Now it looks pretty even. That paper napkin's just going to also help it to have just a little flexibility, a little bounce if you should bang the stone. It's not going to be a solid strike up against the silver, up against the metal. It'll help. Got these tools by mistake. I got them I mistakenly, these are leather working tools, and I brought those out by mistake. And what I meant to get was the bezel setting tool. And as you can see, they look almost identical. So I have these two, and so I'm going to go ahead and close the bezel back up again, and then I'll show you how I polish the stone just on the rings, set on the ring already. And you can do this with the dremel. That's the advantage of using a dremel, if you know, and in case you don't have a lapidary setup. And as you can see, once I'm done, you won't even be able to tell that this was done just with a dremel. I mean, the stone's going to look absolutely perfect. Just closing them down, nice and tight. Just applying enough pressure so that I don't damage the stone. Make sure it looks nice and tight. I mean, it already looks good. All I did was grind the stone down. But as you can see, it has, you can't really tell, but it does need to be repolished. Without, if I just hold the ring far away from the camera, you can't really see, but it almost looks like it has a facet finish on top, and I want to take that off, and it's going to look nice and smooth, and it's going to have a really nice finish to it when I'm done. Just want to make sure I get all of it nice and closed. There you go. It's all nice and closed. So now comes the refinishing process. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with I like to use diamond compound. I'm old school, so I still use diamond. I know a lot of people, they like to use cerium oxide, but you know, this isn't gonna need a lot of polishing. I've got a couple of Nova points, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna smoothen out the sides with the Nova point, and these are sold by Diamond Pacific. I'm just gonna go ahead and use a fine grit and just slowly give it a nice, I think they call them skirts. And then polish on top. This is also taking down some of those marks. Working very well. It's taking, you can't really see where I grind down the sides. Now I'm doing I'm doing the dome, making sure there's no saw marks left or streaks from the grinding wheel. These Nova points are really excellent for this, especially if you have, if you do a lot of carving. works really well. I love these metal paints. See, there you go. Looking mighty good. It's got a beautiful pattern, the matrix and the stone. Very nice. A little bit more. You can't hardly see the marks anymore. And now you can't tell that that stone was kind of rough grind all the way around. And I've just really smoothened out everything. I'm gonna switch tips. Here we're gonna start the polishing process because I noticed that you couldn't see any more marks, any more scratches. So I'm gonna start off with I believe this is 1300 diamond paste grit. So I'm gonna do 2, maybe 3 different grits just to give it a nice polish. I want the stone to look really, really nice. Also, be aware when you buy, if you're old school like me and you still use diamond compound for polishing, make sure you don't get any diamond paste that has coloring in it, because depending on what you're going to use it on, if you use it on something porous like turquoise or Ethiopian opal, it will bleed into the stone. The stone will actually absorb and will change the color of your stone. So always be aware of that. When I do, because I do have some diamond compound, some paste that does have colors, but I know better not to use it on porous stones or stones that absorb moisture. Also, another thing, using these types of felt for your dremel actually helps to avoid contact with the metal. I, for one, do not like to polish my jewelry. I don't like to clean it, especially old pawn. I think it's a sin. I like patina. I like my jewelry to get dark. And there you go. Look at that. I think I don't have to use any more different grits. I think that's fine as it is. It's beautiful. No streaks, no marks. That looks pretty good. Actually, I think that's quite enough. Now you couldn't tell that it had that broken stone in it. I really like the way it turned out. This is just something you can do with your Dremel, you know, until you can afford to buy your setup. Here's the before and after.